Simone, welcome and thank you for joining me for this podcast to talk about you and your experience as a developer building on the Algorand blockchain. Before we get started, could you just quickly introduce yourself to our viewers?
Hi, Chris. Nice to see you again. I'm Simone. I'm 25 years old. I'm Italian, but I'm living in Malta right now. And I'm currently working with Blockchain Italia as a blockchain solution architect and developer.
Nice. Last time, so we actually met at a conference called Web Summit this year, right?
Yeah.
Couple of weeks back, and you told me that you lived in Malta, but I didn't know where Malta was. So I looked it up on Google, and you guys can look it up as well. But if you look up Malta, Google just shows you these beautiful pictures of Malta, like the ocean, and it's just beautiful. And I got so
Yeah.
jealous. Right? I don't live somewhere that beautiful.
The sea is great there, yes. And even the weather is very nice. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's a small island, but a very nice place to live.
Oh, it's an island.
Oh yeah. It's an island in the middle of Mediterranean. Um, it's very close to Italy, very close to Sicily, but it's another state, another country.
You mentioned you're working at Blockchain Italia.
Yeah.
Just tell us more about the company and what Blockchain Italia do.
Yes, Blockchain Italia is a software house based in Milan. We offer different kind of services like consulting for companies that want to integrate the blockchain into their systems, and also to those that are already working on the blockchain and want some type of software upgrade or an economic overview. We also develop softwares and application for clients to integrate into their application smart contract or blockchain services as needed. We build even our own blockchain and Web3 products. We launched different kind of projects, mostly on the Algorand blockchain. For example, Fox Finance, the biggest DeFi protocol on it, which was born as a deposit and borrowing protocol, but right now it offered different kind of financial services like leveraged swaps or the liquid governance with the Gialgo token that is pretty famous in the Algorand ecosystem. And in January, we will also participate in the CIS at Las Vegas, a big tech conference with a new in-home platform called Toknox. It is a tokenization platform built on the Algorand blockchain to notarize, manage, store, and sign any type of digital file.
That's awesome. You know,
Yeah.
I thought Folks Finance was just a team working on just Folks Finance, but you and I got to talking, and you mentioned that it's actually a company called Blockchain Italia, and it's a much bigger company than just Folks Finance. You guys are working on different projects, and you're also providing consulting services to Web3 and Web2 companies.
Right. Yes.
But just a follow up question on that. Whenever you do provide those consulting services, and I assume you've worked with some non-blockchain companies as well.
Yeah, of course.
Uh,
A lot.
how knowledgeable are they on blockchain? When they come to you, do they know like the fundamentals of how this technology works, what's possible with blockchain, and also like what's not ideal with blockchain? Because a lot of people think that blockchain is this magical technology that you can use for everything, but that
Yeah.
really isn't the case, right?
Yeah, that's right. Actually, not every client that comes to us know what's the blockchain and how does it works. But someone, yes, someone heard about it. Someone knows NFTs or some technologies like this. We try to fit the best solution for them, of course. So we see what's their case in specific. We even do a projecting, an overview, and we see if it's the case to integrate the blockchain into their system, because of course it's not always the case. So that's it.
I think more and more we're going to be seeing these type of consulting services, especially because I think the misconception that a lot of us have is that we assume that all these companies and developers will just naturally learn about blockchain and know how to use it the best way, but the reality is that's not the case. They just know on a high level what blockchain is, and they've heard of some cool stories of other companies doing something with blockchain, and they just want to get in on this
Yeah,
action, but oftentimes they just don't know what's possible and what's good, right? So I think it's great that you Blockchain Italia is providing that kind of consulting service.
maybe our purpose is even to have a layer downgrade where people doesn't know how does the technology works, and we just build and they will use it without knowing the technical details or how the blockchain works in specific, that's, I think, is the purpose of the builders.
That's awesome. Hey, you also mentioned that you're working on another project called Toknox, right?
Yes.
So just tell us more about that platform. And so you told me that it's a tokenization platform to notarize, manage, and store digital
Yeah.
files. But why do you think tokenization of these digital files are important?
Toknox is a new in-home platform for Blockchain Italia. We launched just an MVP that we will present at CIS, as I mentioned. I think even doing all this consulting, I understand that this is a need that a lot of clients had. Like they need to tokenize, notarize file on the blockchain that is the perfect fit for it, because we can have a unique layer when we tokenize file, and everyone have the access to it, can verify it. It has even legal proof of some document. They can be signed, so even, for example, banks or a big institution can use it. I see that sometimes some important companies or I don't know, some services register the information or on a database that obviously not always are secure or immutable, reliable. So the blockchain is the perfect use case for notarized file of any type. Really, is very scalable as solution. So I think it's very useful to have a unique layer where everyone can tokenize, verify, sign, manage, and store every type of document.
I agree with you, Simone. When people hear this word called tokenization, they usually just think about crypto that people can buy and sell, make an interest, make a profit. But tokenization really is much more than that, because we're in 2023 and the world is very digitized now, but
Yeah,
we still can't store any important information, important documents, um, in a digital file, because data can always be manipulated, because the way we store data today without a blockchain, it's always owned by some entity, and that entity has full control over that data, and they can do whatever with it. So you can't really store your identity or your health records, anything like that, because you're basically giving that information ownership to
yeah,
some unknown entity that you don't really trust. So using a blockchain that's not owned by anyone, and it guarantees immutability of these files. Now you have this technology that you can just upload your important information, and it acts like a ledger, an immutable ledger that no one can touch, and it just records the history, and you can prove stuff, you can prove
yeah,
ownership, you can prove who you are. So there's definitely a lot of potential around this tokenization that you mentioned.
yeah. That's what I was saying exactly. Yes.
You said that you are a blockchain solutions architect and a developer at Blockchain
Yeah.
Italia. So tell us more about your role and what you do.
Yes. As I said, my role in Blockchain Italia right now is as a blockchain solution architect and developer. I'm mainly in charge of projecting and developing application on the Algorand blockchain. I also do consulting, as I said, for clients on blockchain application use cases of every kind. And my responsibilities include design application that integrate blockchain technology, developing smart contract in Python, and building Web3 protocols. Yes.
Nice. So you also kind of play a role in of designing these smart contracts, right? Um, so I think what a lot of developers will be interested in to hear from you is how different is it to write a smart contract compared to just a normal software that a developer would be used to building?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, a smart contract is a bit different than a software. It can be integrated in a software. The developing of the smart contracts is not that long and difficult sometimes. It depends even on the use case, but usually it's not that long the process of developing. What is long is the designing and then the testing of the smart contract. That is very important because it needs to be very secure, it needs to be very efficient, and it needs to be very adaptable even for future upgrades. So these are key part in the developing of smart contract. And then even the test, because of course after is developed, needs to be stressed and tested a lot to, of course, as I said, test the security and all these things, because we know the blockchain is public, so everyone can have access to the code and to the smart contract. So especially in the financial application, it's very important to have a secure smart contract that works well and is audited by big companies or important companies that do this job.
You know, I saw a post from X, and I would love to reference them if I remember their account. But they said that building smart contracts, so basically blockchain-based app, is more similar to building a hardware. Um, but when it comes to software, the the philosophy that a lot of companies have is build quickly and break things, right? And you just update, and um, if
Yeah,
something
that's
doesn't
true.
work, you just make a hot fix. So that's possible in the software world, and smart contract is a software. But the thing is, like you said, writing a smart contract doesn't require a lot of code. I mean, it usually ends within like a couple hundred line of
Yeah,
code.
true.
But the real struggle comes from how secure is this smart contract, right? Because when it comes to smart contract and these blockchain applications, a lot of the times you're dealing with real money or something of value, and the users of your application are basically trusting not even your company, but that code, that smart contract code, right? So if there's something wrong with that code, there's a bug that allows someone to
Yeah.
drain all the funds that's locked in the smart contract. Now, everyone loses money and it's a huge problem. So I love the reference of saying that building a smart contract is more like building a hardware, because in the hardware world, you don't want to be making those mistakes. You want to be very strategic, and you want to make sure that everything works perfectly before you deliver to production. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear your thoughts on what you think.
No, I never heard about this association, but it's very interesting actually because it's true. Even the hardware needs to be very functional, no? And it's like the smart contract. Yes.
Mhm. You also said that you are developing smart contracts with Python.
Yeah.
But have you had a chance to take a look at some of our new smart contract languages like Puya and TealScript?
I just took a fast look of Puya, the new Python library for building smart contracts on Algorand. But right now with the Christmas holidays, I
Yeah.
will take the chance to study it properly and dive into it, focusing into it because it's a very interesting future, and I think it will be very important for the Algorand future, actually.
Mm. Yeah, what's interesting about Puya is that it's kind of different from previous smart contract languages in that um, as a developer when you're writing smart contracts with Puya, you are just writing Python code
Yeah.
and not some new language that you have to learn. So I mean, it's still in developer preview, and we are still building it. We still need a lot of feedback and improvements, but I'm really excited, like you said, on the future of Puya and what
Me
it will
too,
bring.
me too. I'm a Python developer mostly, so for me this is amazing. Yeah, it will be great to finally develop a smart contract with a common language like this. Yes.
Now let's talk more about your journey of becoming a blockchain developer, because a lot of developers are out there. They hear about blockchain, they get interested, but they don't really see a reason to learn blockchain development. So why did you become a blockchain developer?
I was studying computer science at the university, and I was already passionate about finances and new technologies. I had my first approach with the crypto and blockchain world initially through Bitcoin as an
Nice.
alternative investment,
Hmm.
like most of the people actually.
Yes.
Then I read some books on the topic, and after I find out that on some blockchains, such as Ethereum, it was possible to write code and build programs and application, I started to get deep into it. I opened an Italian crypto community on Instagram during the COVID period, and it went pretty well actually. I was living near Milan at that time, and I needed to do an internship for my university.
Mm,
So I contacted Blockchain Italia to do it. Since I already had some experience in software developing, a crypto community, and I was focused and determined on learning more about blockchain development, they hired me, and there I had the opportunity to learn how to be a blockchain developer actually.
that's amazing. So you actually learned on the job.
Yeah, even because at that time there weren't so many resources or university courses to learn from them. So this was an amazing opportunity for me, actually. Yes.
Hmm. I think that's interesting what you say, because I also think that a lot of developers think that you have to be some genius to become a blockchain developer. Um, but that really isn't true. You know, if you know the fundamentals of software engineering and you're just a developer, then anyone can really become one. I mean, I wasn't even a developer before.
Yeah.
I majored in economics when I was in the university, uh, and same for me. I also kind of learned about this industry through Bitcoin, but initially my perspective of Bitcoin was very negative,
Oh
as
yeah.
in an economic standpoint, right? I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
know anything about Bitcoin. I didn't know the technical aspect of Bitcoin or anything. I just saw that the price of Bitcoin in 2017 was going up and down
Yeah.
like crazy. And obviously, as someone who's in an economics major, I just thought that's just a way too volatile. I didn't want to. I didn't even want to call it an asset before. I thought it was just something sketchy. I didn't
Yeah.
really look into it. But
Yeah, I
then
understand.
I went to this conference, and one of the main topics there was blockchain. So I thought this blockchain thing was all sketchy and it wasn't too interesting. But for it to be like a main topic of a conference, it's gotta mean something, right? So that's how I learned about blockchain, and then I really dived into what Bitcoin really is, what it allows, and then, like you said, kind of went over to the Ethereum world where it allowed programmability on the blockchain, right? So yeah, I think we do have kind of a similar journey of
Yeah, yeah.
coming
I
into this
understand
industry.
that you say people think that you need to be a genius, but probably it's the same thing that people thought in the 80s or 90s about normal developers. But then when technology take place and be start being more famous, so people realize It's just studying and understanding, no?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you said that you learned how to write smart contracts on the job, but can you tell us a bit more about how you learned to write smart contracts, become a blockchain developer, and also for the viewers who are thinking of learning blockchain, what do you recommend the developers to do to become a blockchain developer?
As I said, I'm a software developer, and I think that this is important, like having a solid background of software engineering and object oriented programming. I've been studying from the beginning, and this is how I suggest everyone to start. So, first, getting to know blockchain principles to understand how the blockchain work and the different consensus algorithms and types of blockchains. Once you have then a solid understanding of blockchain basics, dive into the specifics. This involves studying the technical aspects like smart contract, decentralized application, and blockchain architecture. Then I suggest to choose a programming language commonly used in a blockchain development, such as Python for Algorand or Solidity for Ethereum. Then I think the documentation, the official documentation, is always the best way to learn every programming language. So get deep into it.
Hmm.
And I think it's very important to understand that blockchain technologies evolves rapidly. So staying informed about the latest developments, emerging platform, and any updates in the blockchain space is the key.
Oh yeah, I mean your last point, I cannot agree more. I mean, a week goes by and some new thing comes up. Now,
Yeah.
like it seems like the trend is inscriptions. Have you heard about that?
And no, I never heard about it.
So so inscription kind of came about. I don't really know too much about it either, but what I know is that Bitcoin, they wanted to create NFTs on Bitcoin,
Oh,
and to do
yes.
that, they wanted to store these metadata on chain. And then people started to realize, hey, we can do that on Ethereum, we can do that on other blockchains. So
That's interesting.
people started not use IPFS to store like
Mhm.
your metadata, your image on an external database, but they try to store it on chain. And it's also possible in Algorand. But there's a lot of interesting debate going on about, is this just wasting blockchain space, because the space on the blockchain is very expensive and
Of
limited,
course.
right? So some people think this is just a waste of space, but other think that this is all very cool because everything is on chain.
Could be interesting. The time will tell if it's an important upgrade or not. But yeah, could be interesting. Me, I work a lot with asset NFT in general, so it seems an interesting idea. But I need to read more about it, of course.
Yeah. So based on your story, it seems like you recommend people take like learn the fundamentals first. So build the foundation and then kind of get to the building part.
Yes.
So do you think it's a bad idea to just dive straight into learning, like smart contract languages and just straight on right away build an application?
I think that is important to understand first how does the blockchain work, because then the programming language are very connected to it. So it will, of course, maybe someone can do it, but it will be more difficult. So I suggest everyone to start from the beginning, and even for personal knowledge as a blockchain developer, knowing how does the technologies are you building on works is very important. So I suggest to do it honestly.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important definitely to learn the bare minimum of what
Yeah.
blockchain is, right? Because if you just dive straight into just building an application, you're going to build it with a Web 2 mindset. I don't know if that makes sense. Not really understanding the nuances and the differences that when it comes into this decentralized world, which we are not really used to, right? We're just used to building on the internet that we use today, the platforms, and these are not decentralized networks, which is what
Yeah.
blockchain is. So having that core understanding of the platform that you're building on, like you say, is very important. When did you join Blockchain Italia?
Right now it's like 3 years and a half that I'm working with them. Yes.
3 years.
So
So
in
so you can say
2020
that.
probably.
So you can say about 3 years of being a blockchain developer, right?
Yes.
So just tell us a bit more about how your experience has been being a blockchain developer, and do you recommend other people to learn blockchain development?
Okay. Yes. Personally, I really love my job and what I'm doing. Um, I can't think a better way to spend my days than this. I find the blockchain ecosystem in general very stimulating and interesting. It's full of young people and always evolving. And of course, I like that it mixes finance and technologies. That's are two of my biggest passions.
Mm.
Maybe it can be a little challenging sometimes, but what I particularly love about blockchain technology is its vast potential and sense of limitless possibilities it offers. It's a field where creativity and technical skills come together to create a solution that can really change many industries.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to affect a lot of the industries. You know, the conference that I went to where I first learned about blockchain, I listened in on a talk done by CZ, the ex
Mhm.
CEO of Binance, and he was saying that blockchain technology is going to disrupt most of the industries in the next 10 years. And that's a bold claim. And using that word disrupt caught a lot of people's attention, I think.
Of
And
course.
it caught my attention as well because, for one technology to completely change how things are done on an industry level, that's a big thing, right? So you're passionate about finance as well.
I'm not that good as developing probably, but it's my passion. I like even to be interested on the stock market, crypto market, and finance in general. Yes, of course.
That's interesting because one of my personal passion is also finance, and it's my passion is more towards personal finance because I think it's really important for people to educate themselves in finance because I do think that we no longer live in a world where we can just get a stable job and create a bank account and just save up our money through our one source of income. And it's just, I just don't think that's sustainable anymore. I mean, because of the inflation and, the price of living is continuously rising. So
Yeah,
I'm very passionate about also educating people about personal finance because everybody needs to become more responsible, I think, in their personal life by managing finance on a more personal level. And it's actually one of the reasons why I was so intrigued by blockchain as well, like you said, because now we have a whole ecosystem of decentralized finance, right?
yeah,
And it is one of the most prominent use cases of blockchain. But because now we have a purely native digital money called crypto, now you can also build a decentralized financial application where people can use that native digital currency to engage in financial activities. And this whole process, you don't need to be living in a country that has a stable financial system with a stable currency or have access to bank accounts.
yeah,
So it really aligned with my interest of a world where people are more educated in personal finance.
yeah. I 100% agree on it, and even it's very important for these countries where their value, their money are hyperinflationated, and a lot of people in the world are unbanked, and this can be a really important upgrade for everyone.
All right, now let's talk more about your experience building on the Algorand blockchain. So, um, you said that in Blockchain Italia, you're more focused on building Algorand applications. So I feel like you're the perfect person to ask this. But tell us more about your initial experience building on the Algorand blockchain.
Honestly, Algorand, as you said, was the first blockchain I've approached for developing. And I started with it in 2020, and I need to say that at that time, resources for learning and developing were quite scarce. There weren't as many comprehensive guides like the Algo Kit or detailed YouTube courses available as today.
2020 is also the year I started interning at Algorand. And oh man, I remember those days where we didn't. The PyTeal was still in development back then.
Yeah.
Like you said, we didn't have Algo Kit, so it took me like a week to just set up my development environment, and I was so embarrassed because my manager asked me to, hey, just build a simple application just to learn how to build an Algorand, and I was like, yeah, I can do that, and I was like, a week goes by, and I'm like, yeah, so. I spent my last week just setting up my development environment.
No,
But
no, I agree with it because it was like this even for me. It was very difficult initially, even to build the first node or interact with the blockchain initially. And as I said, there weren't YouTube courses where you can watch them and learning from them easily. So you need to do it all by yourself. Right now, there is
definitely.
your Python course on YouTube that is very useful for everyone that want to start. No, I started by immersing myself in the Algorand developers' websites. This was my primary resource at that time, and it offered practical examples that were crucial in my early learning stage. I began with basic tasks like using the SDK, executing transaction, creating assets. Then the real depth of my learning occurred when I jumped into Python documentation. Developing smart contract on Algorand using Python was a significant step up in complexity, but it was also what I found to be the most exciting and challenging thing. I need to say that I also consider myself very lucky because I'm working in a company full of young and very talented people. With the Blockchain Italia and Folks Finance teams, we can have interesting discussion on many different topics, learning from each other every day, a lot of things, and I find this very useful, honestly.
Definitely. I've met other people from the folks finance team, and every time I meet them at conferences, we would always go into these interesting conversations, talking about blockchain, its future, what's happening on Algorand, and those type of conversations really need to happen, and I really
Yeah,
love adore those kind of conversations because it's also an opportunity to learn, right, from other people, what they've experienced, what they think, and it's like a feedback loop of, oh, this is what I thought, but this is what they think, and if you
yeah.
kind of mix those two informations together, it really helps with the learning process. You've been building on Algorand for 3 years now. What do you like about building on Algorand, or what are some unique features on Algorand that you like as a developer?
Yeah, what I personally like of Algorand is that is applicable on most of the use cases of every client. Like when I'm talking with a client and he wants to integrate the blockchain into his systems or maybe develop a new blockchain application, I find that Algorand fits their needs very well most of the time. Of course, one of the main reasons are its low fees and the fast transactions. And another key point is that is carbon negative. A lot of companies are interested in it because green blockchain is aligned with today's sustainability trends in technology. Then there is, of course, the very strong technical side. From a developer's perspective, I personally find it very good to build projects on it. Algorand's reliability and scalability are very important advantages to consider. Also, Algorand standard assets, for example, are easy to use and offer a lot of flexibility. And I personally use a lot the ERC19 standard that offers mutability and is very useful for me for a lot of applications. I want to start to use Puya because this will be another key step, very interesting in technology side.
I visited Lisbon and I visited Europe a couple times, but every time I visit anywhere in Europe, it seems like Europe is very focused on environment, right? Making things environmental friendly. I was surprised to see so many electric cars and all the like public transports like buses were
Yeah,
run electrically. So Europe is really taking this environment issue very seriously, and that's where I think Algorand really does well because by design it really uses very little electricity. But what I like about Algorand is that it took a step further and it purchases carbon credits as the
yeah.
amount of carbon credits that you spend. The Algorand blockchain spends. So technically, at the end, the carbon that the Algorand blockchain is producing is less than zero.
Yeah,
Uh,
that is
I,
very important today. We know it because even with Bitcoin is very discussed this topic, no, about
yeah.
the environment, the energy that Bitcoin use, and a lot of stuff like that.
It seems like though the Bitcoin community are coming up with some creative ways to kind of reuse the heat generated from running these mining tools. I saw
Yeah,
a video and this person is running like a sauna of
wow.
with all the heat that's generated from their Bitcoin mining tools. Um,
I saw people using even the heater that are Bitcoin mining tools. No, yes,
mhm.
that's interesting. Yes.
Yeah, so it's really nice to see not just proof of stake blockchains care about environment, but just blockchain technology as a whole, including Bitcoin. The entire community, the entire industry is really considering the environmental aspect because blockchain is something that is like the foundation level, right? It's a platform that people are going to be using, in the future and
Yeah.
on. So it's going to be running 24/7, so the environmental aspect is crucial and you have to consider that when you're building a good blockchain. I also wanted to add on what because I mean I'm obviously biased, I work for Algorand, but what I really like about Algorand is the instant finality part. I think when I was using Ethereum in my early days when I was just trying to get into blockchain, I was very disappointed by the user experience, and it's come a long way, right? Years has have passed, but still, on Ethereum and a lot of other chains, your transaction can be reverted, even if it got executed, and that seemed absurd to me at first, and the user's perspective. On a technical level, I obviously understand why that's a thing, but just as a user, that really is unacceptable, right?
Yeah.
So because these blockchains don't have instant finality, they recommend 6 or 7 blocks to go by and to be 100% certain that this transaction went through with absolute finality. And that's something developers need to consider when they're building their application.
Of
Because
course.
on the front end, when you're telling your user, hey, your transaction went through, you have to make a decision of, do I just take the risk and say that it went through and hope for the best
Hmm.
that it doesn't get reverted, or do you play it safe and just make the user wait until 6 or 7 blocks go by? So having instant finality, and when I say instant finality, it means when your transaction is included in the blockchain, it just gets final right away without having to wait 6 or 7 blocks. As a developer, that's something that I don't even have to consider. I can
Yeah.
always guarantee that on Algorand, If my transaction is gets added to the blockchain with the latest block, then that transaction is irreversible instantly.
I was talking about it yesterday with a client that is even a friend, and we were talking that for the application that are everyday use application, this is very important actually, because even if there is an important operation that needs to be done, it's very important that the finality is guaranteed. So yeah, I agree on it. That is very important.
Amazing. All right, Simone. Well, that's all the questions I had for today for you. Before we wrap things up, do you have any final remarks, thoughts you want to share with our viewers, or anyone looking to become a blockchain developer, or how to learn blockchain Algorand?
I can suggest everyone at least to start to understand, as we said before, how does this technology works, because I think it will be very important in everyday life of everyone. And maybe we don't need to understand very deeply the technical side of it, but at least understand the advantages and that we can take from it. I say to everyone to give it a chance.
Yes. Well, Simone, thank you so much for joining me today to
Thank you,
share your
Chris. Thank you very
experience.
much.
Thank you. To just thank you. I just want to say thank you for joining me to share your experience and your insights today, because it really means a lot when it comes from a developer who's actually in the industry and actually building stuff, right? Instead of just me going online and saying, "Hey, blockchain is great, everyone," right?
No, come on.
Um, and I also want to thank you and Blockchain Italia for continuing to innovate on the Algorand blockchain, because you guys are bringing these amazing products, and when you do that, it's great for the users, but it's also inspiring for developers, right? When they see these amazing products being built on the Algorand blockchain, they see a use case, a successful use case, and say, "Oh, like I could do something like that on the Algorand blockchain. Well,
Yeah.
maybe I can bring my ideas into reality." So, just thank you so much for showcasing, what's possible with Algorand, but just also with this beautiful technology called blockchain.
Thank you again, Chris, and let's hope this can be useful for many people. No,
That's it for today. Thank you so much.
thank you. Bye.